friends, welcome back to Acre Homestead. My name is Becky if you're new, and today I am going to talk canning lids. This is going to be a conversation. I'm going to give my point of view, and I would love your feedback because I definitely need it. I was kind of going back and forth whether I was going to sit down and have this conversation, but I've decided that yes, this conversation needs to be had. I've been contacted 6 times on my Instagram account, that's just Acre Homestead, and through different Amazon sellers. So what these Amazon sellers are selling are canning lids, and they ask the same thing of me. So I don't know if it's the same company with different accounts trying to contact me or what, but it's kind of suspicious. And yesterday I was contacted twice, and so that's when I decided, yes, we need to sit down and have this conversation. What they're selling are canning lids, and it's an off-brand, and I have never used them or anything, and I've been tempted in the past to buy these canning lids because you know how 2020 went, you couldn't buy canning lids, and they're still extremely hard to find. And on Amazon, they've had these canning lids. They're not any cheaper than what canning lids used to be, but they're actually canning lids that are available. And what these sellers are asking of me is to give a 5-star review, and they'll send me 52 canning lids for free. And each one of them, I have contacted them back, and I said, I can't guarantee a 5-star review on anything if I haven't used it. If they're great, then I would be happy to give you a 5-star review. And they've all said, thank you, I don't think you're the person we're looking for. And so that's a little suspicious to me that there's these people out there that are basically buying 5-star reviews by sending them a little bit of product. I mean, 52 canning lids cannot be that much of an expense for them to get a 5-star review on Amazon, because you know we all look at the reviews to know whether we like a product or not. And so that definitely makes me think that you actually have to be pretty careful when you're reading reviews on Amazon that companies are doing this, because I'm sure they're not the only company, whether it's one company or 6 companies, because that's how many times I've been contacted on my Instagram account about this. And so I thought I would just sit down with you and tell you what my thoughts are and what my strategy is going forward through this canning season. I actually just canned up 18 pints of strawberry jam and 9 pints and 1 jelly jar, or one and a half pint, I guess, of rhubarb jam. And I'm going to tell you my strategy, and some of this might be a little bit controversial, and I'm not telling you what you should do, I'm just going to tell you what I'm doing. So first off, every year what I like to do in the winter is I buy all my canning supplies. And typically what that means for me, that means canning lids, sugar pectin, and maybe a few more jars. I typically only buy my jars secondhand now, and my mother-in-law and my mom and some other people who know that I like to buy canning jars used are always willing to look out for me, and so I don't usually buy those new. But lids, I usually stock up on, and I was really grateful that before 2020 and all the craziness, I had actually bought about, I think it was 20 boxes of both the regular mouth and wide mouth, and I typically love to can more in my wide mouth than I do my regular mouth jars. So I was set for 2020 with just regular cur or ball. They were ball because these were the ones I bought. I actually have 2 regular mouth boxes left. And I was set all through that year. But coming up, I knew that I didn't have very many canning lids, and I'm gonna be canning a whole lot more this year than I ever did before, because now I have a pressure canner. I'm not just water bath canning anymore, you know, jams and applesauces and things like that. Now I'm doing chicken stock and beans and potatoes, and hopefully I wanna be canning some meat too. So all that to say, I was pretty stressed going into this season because in my area, I could not find canning lids, just like I'm sure a lot of you couldn't find canning lids. At one point, I would say like 4 months ago, I actually found canning lids at my store, but the wide mouth canning lids were $6.50 a box. I think they were $6.55, and we have tax 7% in Washington. So that was over 50 cents per canning lid, and that's just not affordable for me. At that point, there's really no point in canning because you're spending more on the lid versus you can go buy a can of beans, or I guess, I don't know, I mean, if it's homegrown still, but wasn't gonna pay over 50 cents a lid. So I passed on those. And then at one point, so that was at Kroger. It was technically Fred Meyer's in my area, but that's just a Kroger store. And they did actually have, at one point, I did find some regular mouth lids for I think they were $3.50 a box. So still more than what I normally would pay, but cheaper than $6.55. I think I bought like 10 boxes. I knew that wasn't gonna be enough canning lids to get me through 2021 season, but I did wanna make sure I had some in my pantry. So at that point, my plan was I'm just gonna can in regular mouth jars. I actually have way more wide mouth jars than I do regular mouth jars because that's what I prefer to can in. I just made the effort that if I was gonna open something out of my pantry, I was gonna make sure I opened a regular mouth jar instead of a wide mouth jar. If I had two of the same thing on the pantry shelf, the regular mouth jar was the one I was gonna use. So that's what my kind of plan was. And then this is where the controversy comes in. I have randomly here and there reused canning lids. And I know it's not technically recommended to do that. Now I keep all my used canning lids, and I have always done this because I reuse them when I put spices in jars or dehydrated things or whatever it may be. If I'm gonna use a mason jar for a pantry item or a gift or whatever it might be, I like to reuse my used canning lids for that purpose so that they're not just getting tossed in the garbage. But I have experimented in the past, years ago, with actually canning with used canning lids. And when I've done that, I've never had a big problem with it, but I didn't have a strategy of what I was looking for in my canning lids if I was gonna re-can with my canning lids. So this is kind of where it gets a little bit controversial. I'm just gonna tell you that yes, I am gonna probably start reusing some canning lids. Not all the time, but sometimes. When I did my strawberry jam canning today, I actually used 10 lids that had already been previously used before, and every single one of them has sealed. Now I have actually a list of 5 things that if a canning lid has any of these 5 things, I won't reuse it to can with, but they've all resealed and they're all marked. So I do a lot of gift giving with my canning jars, but I wouldn't re-gift anything if I'm reusing the lid. I'm not worried about it personally, but I just wouldn't want to gift that to someone. So each one has a mark on it so I know which ones were reused. And I actually did that as well because I wanted to make sure that I knew if I reused a lid, I wanted to make sure I knew that it sealed, and they did all seal just fine. Now the manufacturing instructions recommend absolutely don't ever reuse your lids. So this is where I'm telling you that this is not a recommendation for you. This is just me telling you what I'm doing in the event that I'm not able to get affordable canning lids. I'm not gonna be buying those cheap off-brand canning lids. I'm only gonna buy Kerr and Ball canning lids. And then if they have the brand, I've always wanted to buy from, I would be willing to buy those huge sheets of canning lids in bulk from Lehman's, but they're out of stock and they've been out of stock. And when those were available, I had a hard time justifying spending like $100 on these bulk canning lids. But now if I found them, I would be comfortable buying those because I do know people who've used them and they've worked really well. But now I feel like some of those online Amazon canning lid companies, I'm a little bit wary of them because I just don't really trust them with how they're going about trying to get their 5-star reviews. So all that to say, I'm gonna show you the 5 things that I look for when I'm gonna reuse a canning lid that are absolutely no-goes, that if they're on any of the lid, then I'm not gonna reuse it. The first one is if there's any dings or nicks or marks or damage to the rubber rim that is on the outside of the canning lid. Number 2 is if there's any marks or dings or scratches in the white part of the lid. That white part is actually the part that keeps your food from the metal part of the lid, and so it's really important that that is intact. Number 3 is if the rubber part of the ring has a very severe indent in them. Sometimes when the seal happens, it really indents that ring. I just feel like it's gonna have less likely of sealing if that rubber part is super indented. Number 4 is if there's any staining on the white part of that lid. Sometimes when you can things, whatever's in there actually stains the lid. Tomatoes are notorious for staining the top of that lid, and I probably wouldn't actually reuse any lid that had been canned with tomatoes because tomatoes are so acidic. I would just worry that it had eaten through the top of that enamel coating, and I just wouldn't use that. The 5th item is if I push on the canning lid and it doesn't spring back. This lid looks absolutely perfect. I would actually look at this lid and think that it's a brand new lid. The rubber is perfectly intact. The enamel is perfectly intact. There's no dings where I tried to open it. Sometimes I damage lids when I'm opening them. The only reason I know this is used is because it says Pizza 2020, which means this was pizza sauce in here. So it looks perfect, but you don't want to be fooled that when you push on that, it doesn't spring back. It just stays there. I have to actually physically push it for it to go back. And if I'm pressure canning, I'm never gonna reuse a lid that's already been used to pressure can. When you're dealing with pressure canning, I would not mess around with doing anything that's not by the book. So it either means I'm gonna pressure can that with a new lid. If I don't have a new lid, then it's going in the freezer. Because pressure canning, you really don't wanna mess with. You need to follow the directions exactly. Now, where I want your feedback is when it comes to buying Tatler lids or reusable canning lids, ones that are designed to be reused. I have absolutely no experience with those, and they're quite an investment. And canning lids in general are an investment, even when they're not inflated prices, because they technically are a one-time use thing and they are thrown in the garbage. But when you do as much canning as I do, it's only getting more and more. Buying your canning lids adds up. But if I were to buy Tatler lids, it would get really expensive because I have so many cans in my pantry. Well, I guess technically right now my pantry is pretty empty because it's harvest season and preserving season, so I'm putting stuff into my pantry, not as much taking stuff out right now. But Tatler lids are so darned expensive, and I would love to have them, but I want you guys to tell me if they're worth it and if that's something that I should start planning on doing some investing in. Now, I haven't even researched actually if Tatler lids are available right now, but I would like to know your guys' feedback on that. So one tip that I have for you is if you know people, family, friends that live in your area, and you ask them or tell them, hey, I need canning lids. If you see them at an affordable price, would you please buy them for me and I will pay you back? My sister and mom actually over the last month have both found me canning lids by doing this. They both know, and I have a lot of other family members that know that I need canning lids and I need canning lids at an affordable price. And both of them actually texted me and said, hey, I found I was at Winco, which is a local like discount grocery store in our area. They had found wide mouth canning lids. I think it was $3 or just over $3 for the wide mouth, and it was $2 something for the regular mouth. So I said, buy me 10 boxes. So both of them actually bought me 10 boxes of each, and I didn't even ask my mom. I think my mom just stopped by one day and said, here are canning lids for you. But my sister did text me, and I told her that I only needed the wide mouth. So she bought me, I think, 10 boxes, and she didn't buy all of them. She did leave some behind. But when I've gone to my local Winco, since they've told me they've seen them, they've been sold out. So that's why I'm saying if you know people that are willing to pick stuff up for you if they see them, so ask them to do that if they can find it at an affordable price. I'm pretty lucky that I have family that look out for my canning needs. Now they do benefit from it because, you know, a lot of this stuff actually gets gifted to them because I don't think my husband and I could go through this much jam in 2 years. This is a lot. I love to do this, and by being able to gift it to people, it allows me to do more of it. So there's a lot to kind of think about canning lids. I actually do feel like now I am set on new canning lids for the rest of the year. Between the canning lids I have found myself and what my mom and sister have found me, I do technically now have enough canning lids, I believe, to get me through the year, but I still always worry that it's not enough, and just with how the world is kind of crazy right now. And that's why I wanted to do an experiment with actually following all of my 5 guidelines and doing 10 jars and just seeing if there were any problems, but all of them sealed, so I don't have to worry about it. Now this is just between you and me. Don't tell my husband that I'm reusing canning lids. He's a rule follower, so that would probably bother him a little bit, but he's not the one that does the canning, I am, so it is what it is. I just want to say a huge thank you guys for hanging out with me today, and please, 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 if you guys have any tips or recommendations for me, if you guys know affordable places to buy canning lids right now, or if you guys have bad experiences with Tatler lids or bad experiences with the cheap Amazon lids or good experiences with any of it, I would like to know. I definitely am no expert canner. I've been doing water bath canning for quite a while, but pressure canning I am still super new to, and I'm really enjoying it, but I have a lot to learn. So I love when you guys hang out with me. It's super fun. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you guys next time. Bye guys.